Bonjour tout le monde et bienvenue à ce webinaire qui s'appelle Femmes au tennis de table. Welcome everyone to that session that called Women in Table Tennis. And my name is Karine Dumontier. I don't know, Geneviève, if you can put the slides.
Yes.
So my name is Karine Dumontier. I'm in charge of the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion program at TTCAN, and with me, Torsten Gold, Chair Coach Development Committee. And we are very thrilled to have tonight a great guest. I don't know if I can, yeah, a great guest, Geneviève Cardella-Rinfray. We had the pleasure to have her last year, and we so liked her presentation that we asked her to be with us tonight. So this session will be interactive. We will ask you to share your point of view. So the more you will share your point of view and the more you will participate, the more it will be interesting and helpful for you. And it's for you that we did that session. So feel free to participate and share your thoughts. Je vais lire la reconnaissance des territoires parce que le Tennis de Table Canada reconnaît que ses bureaux à Ottawa sont situés sur le territoire non cédé de la nation algonquine Anishinaabe, présente en ces lieux depuis des temps immémoriaux. So, now that it's done, I would like to let Geneviève Rinfray talk to you and make the presentation.
Thank you, Karine. Thanks for having me again. It's a real pleasure to be sharing with your community tonight. So as Karine mentioned, we will do this presentation in a more interactive way. So I will be asking open questions, and I hope everyone can really just be feel free to share. I think one rule that will be very important is that we can share freely without judgment and accept everyone's opinion. And then this is how we can progress and see how we can interact better with women in table tennis. Si vous voulez parler en français, évidemment, sentez-vous bien à l'aise de vous exprimer aussi en français avec moi. Ça va faire plaisir d'avoir la conversation dans les deux langues. So I would start with a very, very large question, which is, should we coach men and women in the same way? I'd be very interested to hear what is your opinion on that first question. And I guess if you're attending the session on women in table tennis, you might already have some ideas. So whoever would like to go, Maxime?
I can break the ice, maybe. My answer is maybe a little bit complex, but I would say I tried both actually, and I had success with both at different levels. In my mind, so far, with the experiences I've had and feedback from the players, from beginning is much better to coach differently. But then as you reach the higher level, I think many things has to be same. And I've been asked by the women players to be coaching them a little bit more like I was coaching the men. So that's my personal experience.
Okay, great. Someone else wants to bounce back on Maxime's idea?
I agree with Max. Yes. Also, but it's just you want to coach them in a different way because I mean, you want to also personalize coaching a little bit, but being direct, I think, with men and boys it's better. It's working better than with female players because they react a little bit differently. But again, at the high level, right? It's also it's changing, and also it's based on personality.
Mm-hmm. All right. Any other ideas?
Well,
Okay, no.
it all depends upon what age you are coaching. I mean, younger girls don't have that much activity to do that. Usually boys want to be more hyperactive than girls. But if you are at the age of 17, 18 years old, then yes, it is difficult to coach differently. It is difficult because you have to see what their performance will be and what their level of activity will be than the boys.
Okay, so I will not go with my own perspective for now. I'll share again the screen and I'll ask you another question. Are female athletes more emotional than men athletes? Would that be one of the differences that you are seeing in the athletes you're coaching?
Yes.
Are they more emotional or are they expressing different emotions? Maxim?
I think they're being more like they have more emotional reactions, but if like in let's say unless you have like a very privileged relationship with your athletes, even though they're very emotional, they're not expressing it as much as the boys would do. So they are more emotional, but if you don't really pay attention, you would think they're less because they're not sharing as much until you reach that point that they really trust you, and then you can really see that. Because the boys, they would just out loud in front of everyone say and do whatever they feel like, and then most of the time they shouldn't, because they it would be better for them not to be like this in front of everyone. But the girls are a bit smarter, they keep it for themselves. But then if the coaches get more and more trust from the players, then it's really obvious. But from beginning it's usually not.
Okay. Anybody else wants to share their views?
I
Maybe
just
they.
want to say, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I'm listening.
I was just going to say that they might just express their emotions differently. Whereas, if a female might be frustrated, sometimes she might cry or she might, do something. Where often if a guy's frustrated, maybe he's angry and he might hit something, like, throw his racket or something like that. So, yes, like Maxim said, sometimes the girls hide it a little bit more, but they can have different reactions to the same emotion.
Okay, and if I were to ask you, why do you think they express it differently?
I'm gonna go with some social norms and ways that, even now there are a bunch of, like, just recently I saw something about how Jason Kelsey made it okay for guys to cry. Because, when his brother retired, he was sitting there and he was crying about it. Well, a while, before, people would say that, like, guys can't cry and boys can't cry. So I think that is a little bit, social norms definitely go into it, but also how people grew up and, their environment too.
Mm-hmm. Do we all agree with what Erica just shared?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. I do agree. And then, is it more difficult to train female athletes? No. Yes, Johnny?
Because of their sizes, men's or boys are much more stronger. So you have to look in that perspective. Maybe they could do more longer drills and so that's why you have to accommodate. But for women, you have to do lesser drills, but then you give them more breaks.
Okay, so you're answering more like on a physical point of view. If we stick on more onto like the emotional, mental, psychological point of view, what do you think?
Um, Emotional psychological view, I would probably look into like I don't know their background more. It's not really what is boys or girls, more of their background. Um, it depends on yeah. Um, yeah, that's what I think.
Okay, so do we agree that it would be not necessarily based on them being a female or male athletes, but more on maybe, as we discussed before with Erica, on social norms, on background on different sports they might have played before. Would that make a difference in on like
Yeah.
how you would train the girls you have in your club?
Yeah,
Yes.
makes sense. Yeah. So I would say like the emotions are mainly dependent on our thoughts, right? So how we generate different thoughts, like what input you have in your brain, and therefore I think women and man's brain should be quite similar. I would say maybe some difference in brain chemicals. I'm not sure, but yeah, I would say what personal experience could be the most important thing. So that's an input in their brain, and yeah, and help them to have different thoughts. So then different emotions, different behaviors. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So we do know at this point in research that there are differences in men and women's brain, very small. We're way more similar than we're different, but there are some differences. So there is a part of nature that could make a bit of a difference between men and women on the psychological, emotional aspects. But a lot will come also from the nurturing part. And when we think about socialization of little girls and little boys, and we think about, let's just think about what would you buy if you were to buy a 5-year-old a little toy for their birthday? What would be the first toys you would think about if you were going to buy a toy for a little girl and buy a toy for a little boy? I think in the last maybe 10, 20 years, it has changed a lot, but you still go into stores and you still find girls and boys sections, and you will see major differences. If some of you have kids, you probably noticed it. So the way the kids play with toys and different activities, it also nurtures some behaviors. And maybe some girls are nurtured to be, like Maxim said, a little more reserved, will not express as much emotion as boys can be nurtured in a way that it is accepted to be loud and to fight a bit more when they play. Girls, it's more like accepted to look good, be polite, be a little like take less space in the room. It's very, very generalized. Okay, so there are many, many exceptions to what I'm saying. But if you think general social biases, I think these would be the biggest one. And this will then impact how women will have to learn how to compete. Little boys already learn how to compete when they're younger. They play different battle games, sword games, even when they play video games. A lot of video games, it is based on competition battles. If you think, again, very generally, but what little girls will play with dolls, taking care of the dolls, playing different roles, playing the nurse, the doctor, uh, the cook in the kitchen. It's all about caring. How can I care? How can I cooperate? Boys, it's more how can I not cooperate but compete? So if you're teaching little girls in your club to compete, they don't have the same background as little boys. They already know how to compete from a very, very young age. Everybody agrees with what I'm saying. If you don't agree, you can always challenge me on these ideas, okay? Feel very free to challenge me. Okay, let's go back. One last question. If you're a woman, I see a lot of women here tonight. Should a female coach train female athletes as a priority? What do you think?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
I don't think. I think
And why
coaches,
not? Go ahead.
well, coaches are coaches. I mean, at an age, I think somewhere when they are between in their puberty or something like that, yes, you need a female coach, but you should have an assistant coach if possible. But if the coach is good in the skills and development and all those things, and I think it doesn't matter to a boy or a girl.
And Dora?
Yes, I don't think so as well. Also, I mean, table tennis, regarding numbers, there are way many boys, right, than girls. So, and of course, it's great for females. It's great to have female models, right? That's wonderful. But on the other hand, it doesn't mean that only female coaches can coach females or male coaches coach boys, and it's just how you start. You just have to be aware of, that boys are more competitive, girls less competitive because of the social norms. So they need, based on that, they need a little bit different approach, and the coach basically can be aware of that and work with that, and also with the individual differences.
I think I agree. If someone has a different opinion, go ahead. But I think I agree. And at some levels, some of you mentioned that you should be coaching women and men the same way. Maybe there are some differences along like more the youth pathway, but at a high level, some of you agreed that it was pretty much the same. Maybe some female coach and some male coach will have different perspectives, but we can all become an expert at coaching female and at coaching male athletes. We just have to get to know our athletes, and maybe if you're female coach and you're coaching females, then you will have a different perspective on the athletes you're coaching, and vice versa. So I think both don't limit yourself to just coach female athletes. If you want to coach female athletes, go ahead. But if you also want to coach male athletes, I think it should be just as accepted as a male coach coaching female athletes. Okay, so I wanted to share two things about coaching female, and some of the things I will be sharing will be similar to coaching male at some point. But I wanted to share first like motivational climate. So maybe you've heard in some NCCP classes you took before the terms mastery climate and performance climate. So when we're thinking about a mastery climate, it's a climate in which you emphasize more on task and learning, and you also put more focus on skill acquisition, effort, and personal improvement. If we think about performance climate, we emphasize more on competition and social comparison. So we want to see, okay, who's better? Are you better than this athlete? Is this athlete better than this athlete? And we don't care as much about skill acquisition. Okay. If we think about female athletes, which of the two climates do you think would work best, and why? Karine?
Yeah, I think the mastery climate would be more efficient with the girls because they don't like to compare with each other. They don't want to be better than the other. They want to be more like collaborate than compete. So I would go with mastery climate.
Okay. And if we want to teach girls how to compete, but we create the mastery climate, are we really going to teach them how to compete?
Good question.
I'm tricking
The
everybody
combination
here.
is the best. Like they have to develop skills, and also you're focusing on those, but they also have to play some matches, and yeah.
Okay. Yes, Maxim.
I think this is part of also the challenge as a coach to try to find a way to get them to start to like a little bit more competing, even if it's not, let's say, in their nature at first, but try to give them some hints and that find a way that to tell them that it's not only super stressful and everything. You can find some pleasure in this, not like the boys that they don't care and they just do everything, but they just, if it affects them more, but you can find a way that still little by little they get to enjoy it. And at one point you will be surprised, I was, but they start to ask more, and at one point they really like it, and they dealing with it better than the boys because it's more important for them, so they deal better with when it's not so easy. They really find a way. Then sometimes the boys they give up. So yeah.
Before you go, Vartan, I would just add on Maxim's thought. If we think back on what I shared before on socialization at a very young age, and we remember that little girls were socialized more to cooperate than compete, then we need to remember that it's going to be it's going to take a little longer to teach girls how to compete and feel safe that winning or losing is okay. Boys learned it from a very young age, and they competed and they saw that even if I beat you or I lose to you, I will still be your friend. And this is the safe space, is to realize that even if we're competing in it against one another, we can still be friends. And this is tricky because last year I presented I remember one of the ideas of why women would drop out of sport it was because other girls were bitching. So sometimes girls don't know how to compete, and then the way they compete impedes, can we say impedes, but it affects their relationships. And as a coach, this is a major red flag. We need to be aware of how the competition in our group affects relationships, because the safe space or the safety net is all about, can we keep great relationships in between our group even if we're competing at a high level? Yes, Vartan.
Hi.
Hi.
I had the microphone issues, that's why I didn't comment earlier. So I'm gonna go very fast. I don't agree with that the girls physically less powerful than boys, what the gentleman said earlier. I don't agree at all, because there is lots of girls much more physically by size and by physical, it's much more powerful than some boys. So that's not an issue. And I would like to say that even in competition, yes, it's more difficult to have girls in competition, but it's not that hard. There is girls competes. It depends the level we're talking about, and depends. There is lots of girls that they compete and they love to compete. It's a fact. We see it in every sport, in tennis, in swimming, in artistic, in almost every skating sports. There is girls competing. But my point is to find the good relationship. We have to know our players. That's a key. It's not only in the gymnasium. We have to know them in person. Sometimes outings, small outings, because you have to know them. Each person is different, and once you create that relationship, and when you have a small outings during the season, you sit together, you eat together, you chat together, you share your problems, then you're gonna create that friendship. They're gonna create in their minds, it's gonna be, those are my friends, I cannot bitch with them. You're gonna reach that point. When you have that relation created in the club or in a small community, then some problems would automatically solved. Yes, always you're gonna have here and there some small issues, but it's easy to solve because you have the base, you have the fundamental things are already fixed. You have some other small issues that here and there, even the boys that have it, anyone can have it, adults can have it, parents can have it.
I think yes, you're coming ahead of my second point, but we'll get there about communicating with your athletes, and I agree with you. You need to know them on a personal level, absolutely. So thank you for sharing. And if we just go back to the presentation just for a minute. So I asked the different climates. We said maybe mastery climate because we want to have girls be more in a collaborative setting and focus more on them than on the competition. And then we said, yes, but if we want to get them to compete, we also need to have the performance climate. So I would have to say that we want to focus mostly on mastery, but have a balance on performance. Okay, I think everybody was getting to that idea. We want to have mastery to make sure that the women are acquiring new skills, that it can always feel safe to compare to their performance to themselves and not always compare to others. But this is also good for men athletes. Okay. And how can we create that mastery climate? I think one of the best way to create that climate is to set goals with the athletes that are more oriented toward the process than toward the outcome. If you are in the performance setting, then it's always on the outcome. Can I beat that other athlete? Can I get a better ranking in that next tournament? Okay, then we focus a lot on the outcome. And why this is psychologically more difficult, it's because you lack control when you have outcome goals. You don't control how your opponents are going to play. The process goals, then you can really control because it's really all about how are you going to perform. And we know that the feeling of control is highly linked to the feeling of confidence and to the feeling of like not feeling stressed, feeling good. Okay. So I would really if it's not already something you're doing in your club, I would really encourage everybody with your female athletes to set process goals. It can be technical, tactical, physical, or psychological. You can set a little small process goals. You can have short term, long term, but at least you know where you're going. And at least you can have like checkpoints. And as Vartan said, you have conversation with your athletes and see how are you progressing. And yes, sometimes you go to tournaments and you do have outcome goals and you do compare yourself to other athletes and see how you're progressing, not just comparing to yourself, but compared to everybody in the province or in the country. And then this can also become a motivator, but it cannot be the only motivator. It really needs to rely on the process. Okay.
Geneviève, I have a question for you. Can you say an example of a process goal that you could have? Just to
Yes. So if we think about okay, let's think about a psychological process goal. Maybe during a training session, if I have problems with maybe saying or judging my performance too many times. Every time I hit and it's not as good as I want. Maybe I say something out loud that is negative about myself. Then I could count how many times I do it, and then the next day I try to do it. If during a 60-minute practice 8 times I said, oh, I suck, or I'm so bad, oh, I'm so stupid, why did I miss that? And it can be out loud, it can be in my head. Then I try to avoid those behaviors. Eventually I can go down to 0. So this would be a process goal. It's really under my control. It has nothing to do with others. If I think about a technical aspect, maybe I'm not too technical in table tennis, but I could think about targets. If I could hit that target that is that big, and then eventually getting it to be smaller and smaller and smaller, and so I can hit more precisely, or hit at a certain speed, how many balls can I exchange in a certain time? So it really depends on me, and it's we can identify different factors that will help me progress in my sport. So maybe you're familiar with the non-performance indicator. We sometimes short it to KPI, so you can work on those. And also last year in the presentation, I talked about the fact that one of the things that was most important to female athletes was their relationship with their coach. If they felt that they had a great relationship and they felt that their coach was strict but fun, it was the 2 ingredients to a great relationship. So they felt that the coach was pushing them enough, was strict enough, but it was fun in the gym. When they came to practice, it was fun. Okay, but I want to also draw your attention to the athlete-athlete relationship that we might sometimes forget in the motivational climate. So you do have a relationship with every single athlete you're coaching, but how do you take care of the athlete-athlete relationship? Do you know the conversations that are happening in between your athletes? Okay, so just stop sharing for a second. How can we create a climate that's gonna be best for athlete-athlete relationship? Yes, Bartan. Sorry, you muted.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I'm gonna suggest very small idea. It might help, it might not, you judge. Sometimes in relationship, I tried it myself, and lots of people, expert people, do it. Between 2 or between 8 or between 10, it's the same issue, which is this. Once a month, once every 2 weeks, you decide, you decide the time, let's say 15 minutes, 10 minutes, or half an hour. It depends how many people you have. In couples, it might be 15, 20 minutes, just talking about everyone issues, what issues they have between each other. Let's say you're getting mad because the boyfriend doing X, or saying this, or they doing that. It's just free time to express yourself. It's designated to that issues. When you're expressing your issues and the other one listening, you have to be listening. And then the other person, same thing, expressing themselves without what bothering and what they are happy. So where I can go much better and where not. In a team, I think it works, because when you open the conversation and say, hey, everyone is free to say what's bad and what's good feelings you have, guys, in the gym. Because you can do it outside, you can do it in a room, in a conference room, in a bar, in place, in third-party place, wherever. When you hear these things and they hear each other, oh, so I'm that day, that week, when I said that, when I reacted that way, the other player get mad. So the snowball doesn't go big. You bring it from small to small from the beginning, and then they know each other, which bothering. You can interfere saying, the X, Y, they get mad. You remember? We don't have to do that. So I think, I don't know, you judge. In couples, it's working. Some couples doing it.
I think I agree that we need to teach, especially if it's younger kids, we need to teach them how to manage conflict. We need to teach them how to speak to one another and how to manage competition and how to keep friends and within the club. I agree that at first we can maybe have a designated day when we talk freely about our problems or conflict. But at a certain point, I think if you have a great motivational climate and you taught the athletes how to deal properly with conflict, then it should progress to a level where we can talk every day. You don't need to wait to that designated time. We are mature enough that we can address the difficulties right away. And in that motivational climate, we feel that like at the basis of being able to deal rapidly with conflict is the trust that we have in each other. If I trust you and I feel that you trust me, then I'll be more open to speak freely about how I feel, because then it's making me maybe a little uncomfortable to open the conversation and vulnerable. But if I trust you, I trust that you will not take that and spin it around against me. So at first you need to create that trust in between your athletes. Okay, so I would say we need to work in different ways, maybe between the girls that we would work between the boys. I don't think the girls communicate exactly the same as the boys because of socialization, not necessarily because of a natural aspect. But getting to know the girls and you will get to know how to help them communicate better, I'm sure. Yes, Johnny?
So what he said was right, but also I think that I find that sometimes the kids probably want to have a privately. So I feel that like sometimes like you kind of just want to like I guess kind of eavesdrop kind of way, but then like they're talking with the athlete, and then if you don't hear any problems, you just leave them alone. But if you see one's upset, they're talking about something, then you ask and you go to them and ask them what's wrong, what's going on, and then like engage as a coach, and then address the situation, and then try to get them along together. And that's
Mhm.
what I would do.
I think a good reference that I would suggest if you haven't read that book is the book called The Five Dysfunctions of a Team. And you can the model is based on it's a pyramid, and you can see like the different like layers that you need to establish in your team. I can give the reference to Karin and she can forward to you maybe. It's a very short book, and if you don't like to read, you can also just print out the PDF that explains the model. Okay, so let's just finish on communication. So, Vartan was clever and pointed out one of the key elements. So, I was going to ask you, what are the key elements of a good communication with female athletes? You said one of the things was to get to know the athletes, not just what they do in the gym, but what they also do in their personal time. What else would anybody else add anything on that? Key elements of good communication with your athletes.
Asking how they are doing in the school, how's the atmosphere, how are the grades, and parent relationship, that are they supporting you what you are doing.
Great, because last year when I presented, one of the main reasons to drop out was that school was too important to them and they didn't feel they could manage school and their sport. But if they feel that their coach is caring about school, it will help them maintain their like the two activities. Yes, Maxim.
I think try to find something you have in common, like either like an artist that you both listen to, or some show that you both listen to, or some kind of books that and just not by intruding in their life, but just letting them know, like, hey, I listen to this too. And then it's always nice moments to share, like before the training, after the training, when we're on the road, on the way to a tournament, whether it's on the flight or, like all these small moments that they know that you're not that different than them. I think it's a good way for them to open up to you. And then sometimes
Great.
it's good because you're gonna find new things that you thought maybe you wouldn't like, and then you try it and it's not so bad and stuff like that.
Yeah, great. And Vartan?
I'm gonna add a small thing, and like Maxime said, I agree 100% with him. But sometimes, a good food, it's a small touch-ups. If you put the small spices, it's gonna be perfect. And in this situation, I would say the trust is the second key. So you have to have the trust of those people because you're dealing with humans. Maxime said, you ask about music. First of all, you need their trust to open up. When they trust you, they know that they can talk to you, and then they're gonna open up. It's and the third I can add, it's being authentic, because saying it and doing it is totally two different things. You know that if I do this, it's gonna work, but you have to be authentic. People know. 2, 3 years old or 10 years old or 15 years old, they know if you're authentic or not. If you're acting, you're doing it, just doing it, or you're doing it really you care. So sometimes we think that we can fake it, but people know, even the kids know, everyone can see it. So being authentic, people that they know that you care about them, even if it's a neighbor, if it's a coworker, if you're doing it from heart, they're gonna feel it. Once that created, they trusted you. After that, things gonna happen eventually, and things gonna be easier.
Yes, and if you haven't listened to her talk, I would highly suggest there's one on YouTube and one on Netflix that you listen to. Brené Brown. She talks about vulnerability and confidence, and I can also give Karine the reference, and it's a lot of work on being authentic and how being authentic and vulnerable are similar, and how being vulnerable in the way she presents it is a way to create that connection and that human connection. Great. And
I'm sorry.
yes, go ahead.
No, sorry, go ahead. I thought
No, you go.
No, I just wanted to say that one and so relatedness is very important, but also communication. Keep your communication consistent. That's how you also build trust. So your reaction has to be consistent, right? So you don't react differently. And just the communication. I think that's a very useful thing.
Yes, perfect. So I had just a few key points. So we said before, establishing a personal connection, very, very important, and being interested in them as people, not just as athletes, very important. And also, okay. Oops, okay. Sorry, that was weird. Okay, and we know that female athletes, they will flourish when they take advantage of like two-way, very honest, very respectful communication. So yes, I encourage you to have that open conversation, and maybe just stop for a second. Sometimes, maybe, I don't know, maybe some of you might feel like an imposter. Maybe if you're a male coach, you might feel like you're an imposter talking about female issues. Don't be, please don't be. You can be very honest, and you can be very honest with your female athlete and saying, I might not be very comfortable speaking about this. Maybe I'm not a female myself. I haven't experienced it, but I want to help you. I want to talk about whatever issues you have very openly. That would be very good way to open the conversation. If you were to speak about puberty or anything that sometimes can get uncomfortable if we haven't practiced speaking about those topics with young girls. Because even young girls, it's new to them. If it's puberty, it's new to them, and they might not even be comfortable themselves speaking about this topic. Okay, so I don't think male or female, whatever, don't need to be feeling like we're imposters if we start a conversation and being honest, being open, being vulnerable, saying, I'm not necessarily very comfortable, but I will try to help you as I can help you. So yes, please open the conversation. So this is what I wanted to share with you tonight. So thank you very much. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I will be here a few more minutes. Karin, did you want to add something?
Yeah, we have a few minutes. If you have questions, that's time to ask our expert. And I want to say thank you to Dora, that is an expert too, in mental preparation with us. Thank you very much to have joined us. I don't know if you have some question, just that's the time. I will check because Alain will have some
Johnny?
problem.
I just have some questions I want to talk private with Thorsten. Is that okay after?
Oh,
It will be there
no
at
problem.
the end. Yeah, it will be there at the end.
Okay, thanks.
Someone has a comment about the presentation? Is it
It was
something?
I
a
think it's a
great
very nice.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Dora.
I think someone else was talking. I don't know who. Oh no. I just wanted to say it was a very great presentation, very interactive, and I really enjoyed it. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for participating.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure.
Robbie, did you have some comments too?
No, I felt the same way. I've learned a lot tonight from it, and it's different sports. I guess girls are different. Like table tennis is a kind of more a one-on-one versus a team sport, and so there can be a different factor. But I really learned a lot from what Maxine was saying that at the beginning the girls are different, but when you get at a higher level at the end, you got to treat they become treating similar. So, but very informative. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Robbie, to have joined us and I want to say thank you to Najam too. So 2 board members, thank you to have come.
No problem. Like to hear all those comments. I think the main thing is this, that you and Thorsten are doing a great job of promoting the women, especially in the sports, which is hard to get. The girls come in bunches and they leave in bunches. That's the problem. They
Yeah.
come with their friends, one friend leaves, second friend leaves, they're all gone.
Maxime, you have a question?
Yeah,
a
I
comment?
just want to say once again, thank you for this. I think it's a great topic to address. It's also a great moment for us as coaches to rethink about how we do things and how we can try to make it better and have, experts reaching out to actually try to guide us. It's pretty nice. And then exchanges like this between coaches can make us think, maybe I'm doing this right. Maybe I should start doing this a little bit different. And this is always good because that's, as players, they want to improve. As coaches, if we don't improve, then it's very hard to help the players. So I think it's good to have these sessions and keep us, always looking for what can be done better. And I just want to say thank you for that.
I think the challenge now is to take this conversation one step further and actually make a change. I mean, it could be very small, but actually change one little small thing in the next few trainings that you're gonna try with your female athletes. Try something different. If you always do the same same thing, you will always get the same result. So maybe you had an idea, maybe it's not even something I talked about, just being here probably helps you reflect on your own practice as a coach and try to maybe make a little very small change at a time. So this is the challenge.
Yes. Being
And
open to everyone, being open to every idea.
yeah, and encouragement is so important as, you know, as coaches, like especially for I mean for all of the players, but yeah, there are individual differences and creating norms. Yeah.
Thank you very much for all.
Thank you everyone to have come, and thank you to have participated so well. That made it very interesting for everyone. And I think that it's important as a coach to have time to think, because when you are coaching every night and a new session, new athletes, it's very difficult to make some changes if you don't take the time to think about it. So I hope that our session was good for you to think about something new, and thank you very much to have come.